Hey cultivator, welcome back to my channel. I'm curious if you ever set out to do something on your to-do list when job searching and realized that the day has slipped by and nothing on that list got completed. If yes, then you'll definitely want to check out this video because I'm going to be talking about my 3 time management hacks that I personally utilize to make sure whenever I have a busy day or a ton of distractions, I stay committed and focused to the task at hand. So what I'm going to go over is going to be job search specific. However, you can really extrapolate all of this and apply it to your entire life and your career because at the end of the day, it really goes to organization and time management. And those are the 2 areas that I'm going to cover in this video. Alright, so tip number 1 I have for you is prioritization. Now I know this sounds simple on the surface, however, when we actually implement it, it could be quite difficult. So I'm going to give you a little trick here. Anytime I have things that I need to do, I brain dump a huge laundry list. However, I always go back to line by line, putting numbers and circles next to them so I know what order I need to complete tasks by. And I know that I don't do step number 3 until I have completed step numbers 1 and 2. So this will really give you some structure and some order, which I find to be very important when job searching because I know a lot of us get that shiny object syndrome, such as I need to write my resume, but I also need to complete my online portfolio, and I also want to update my LinkedIn profile and maybe clean up my Instagram personal brand and so forth, right? So we're kind of pulled into like all of these different directions, but what happens in that instance is that we make very small progress in various directions, but there's not a main focus at hand where we can say, oh my gosh, I've completed that item. I feel really good about that. And now I have so much more headspace to focus on this next project. So you can think about all of the different stages of your job search as mini projects. And in order to complete a project, you want to make sure that you can completely check it off the list before you move to the next step. And the steps are really important. By the way, if you have not yet downloaded the Dream Job Roadmap PDF, I'll link it down below. But having those steps are so important and critical in your job search because job searching really is like building a house. If you don't have the strong foundation, in other words, you don't have clarity or an understanding of what you're saying, who you're speaking to, and so forth, it doesn't matter if you put up the walls like your resume, your LinkedIn, nothing is going to like really solidify or stay there until you have that foundation in place. So I highly recommend not skipping steps, really understanding your priorities, what needs to happen first, and then next, and then after that, so that you can ultimately land the offer letter, which is the end goal in mind. All right, so we talked about prioritization. Now I want to go into my hack number 2, which is all about time blocking. Perhaps you guys have heard this phrase thrown around before, but it's essentially where you block off certain days and times to focus on specific tasks. So I know for a lot of us, myself included, we're so used to refreshing our inboxes or continuously opening up Instagram or any type of social media and just looking at updates throughout the day. But every time we do a certain task and then we try to focus our attention on something else and then go back to that task, it eats up a lot of our energy and a lot of our mental capacity to really focus in the most effective way possible. Because every time we switch gears or we switch our focus, it takes time for our brains to catch up like, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. And that's why generally speaking, they say no human is really that good at multitasking because we can only have so much mental capacity to give our full undivided attention to certain activities. So when it comes to time blocking, I highly recommend for your job search that you schedule things just like you do in meetings in the corporate workplace, right? So you might know like from 10 to 12, I'm going into this marketing meeting and we're discussing this topic and this is what we're accomplishing during these 2 hours. But during that meeting, you're not necessarily answering the phone, you're not necessarily checking your email, hopefully. You're just staying focused on that one attention. And when you have, again, your priority list, this is where you can start to put those into time blocks. So for instance, I might say, instead of breaking down like I want to complete a resume today or this week and keep it really vague, I might time block certain sections of the resume. Like I know I really want to complete a really strong profile summary today, like that's my top priority. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to schedule this from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock because I know it's a small section, but I want to dedicate a full hour to just brainstorming all of the different ways that I can share my narrative. Right? And so when you can do that, you can make sure that you're focused and you're blocked and you know exactly what's going to be on your calendar throughout the day. And you also time block in your lunches, your breaks, when you are checking emails. Personally, I check my emails 3 times a day, 10 a.m., I think 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. So outside of that, I'm not refreshing my inbox or constantly responding to random emails. Everything gets done in those specific allocated time blocks where I'm just dedicating to that one task. So the same goal applies for you in your job search. Again, if you're looking at the dream job roadmap, really block out when do I want to complete this LinkedIn profile by, what would need to go into this time block or this time block or this time block. How much time do I need specifically for this one activity or this one section? And you can really start to map out your day around when you're also at your best. What I mean by this is I know that I'm most creative at night and I just thrive in kind of like the nocturnal setting. So whenever I'm creating new content, for instance, it's not something that I'm going to be doing early in the morning just because I don't operate that way, but you might. So I would ask, when am I at my best for what kind of activities? And just build your schedule around that. Now, you might be working full time and not have like the 8 to 5 available. So, are you going to be at your best on nights or on weekends? And really start to, again, think about what hours do I want to dedicate and devote to each step of my job search. I know when it comes to networking, for instance, a lot of us might just be randomly, haphazardly reaching out to people, but maybe you set up a time block of, I want to spend an hour on Tuesday evening just sitting down with my dessert and going through LinkedIn to see who it is that I admire and just build out a list. And then maybe on Thursday at lunch, you decide, you know what, I feel most social during this hour. I'm going to go ahead and start reaching out to those people on that list I compiled. I always tell my clients, if you can treat it like non-negotiables, like you're in a meeting at work and you can't just cancel or not show up, do that for yourself because you're going to be the only one accountable to your job search. Nobody cares more than you, other than me, about your success in landing your dream job, right? And maybe your partner. So I highly recommend just making sure you know what you're committed to, what your goals are, and then it's time to move into tip number 3, which is all about finding that focus. All right, so tip number 3, which is finding your focus, means that you know exactly what your non-negotiable is of the day. I know a lot of us can get distracted, but no matter what, every single morning, you should know what is it that I want to accomplish today, that no matter what happens, how busy I get, how tired I get, I'm not gonna go to bed until I complete this one task. So for me, during the mornings when I have my cup of coffee with my breakfast, I'm always thinking about what is like the one big thing that I really want to tackle to say, wow, today was a really productive day. I'm so glad that I was able to get that done. And I really commit to that one thing. And I make sure that I focus on prioritizing that. So again, this goes back to your own style and what you thrive in, and you might want to experiment. I personally experimented for over a year before I got my system down. But for some people, they say that they like to complete their biggest, most challenging task at the beginning of the day and just get it done with, so then everything else seems manageable. I personally don't thrive that way because I like having small successes and wins, and I also like to just make sure that before I tackle a big task at hand, I have a clear mind. And so for me, what that means is I actually thrive best when I check my emails again at 10 a.m. I get back to all of my clients because I don't want in the back of my mind thinking, oh shoot, Alyssa needs this, or oh shoot, I owe this client this, right? I just declutter my mind, if you will, and just check through all of those small wins and boxes that I know are very task based that I can get done really easily and quickly. And then I again go into my prioritization, my time block, and then focus on what is that one big thing? When am I going to do that during the day? And I make sure that it gets done. So if you can do that too and apply that to your job search, there's no reason why, a week would go by that you still haven't touched your resume, or you still haven't reached out to the contacts that you have or the hiring managers that you want to connect with, right? Because you're setting these very intentional goals. You know when you're doing it. That's important. Just having very specific times and just doing it. Because again, nothing is more liberating than checking something off the list that you've completed that. And just know as well that your job search really is a marathon rather than a sprint. And so when you can put in this structure in place, you're more likely to keep the momentum up and continue progressing forward in your job search versus job searching off and on for years on end because you haven't fully committed to the step-by-step foundations throughout your job search that you need in order to succeed. So again, if you have not yet downloaded the Dream Job Roadmap, you can find it down below. If you guys are watching this from the Happily Hired program, you actually have all of the detailed step-by-step instructions, all of the trainings through the job search. So hopefully you're calendaring that in and making sure that you're chiseling away day by day or week by week, and you're ultimately landing to where you need to be. If you have your own tips, drop them down in the comments down below. I read every single one of your comments, and I feel that we can all learn from one another. Again, I want to emphasize that what works for me may not necessarily work for you. And if you don't know what works for you, just have fun with experimenting, and you might go through some trial and error. That's okay. All of your experiences are going to inform more of what works for you and what doesn't work. So I can't wait to see where you land. Until then, I hope that you continue to cultivate your life and career. And don't forget to subscribe and like this video and comment down below so that it helps the YouTube algorithm. And until next time, we will talk very soon.